Yeah.
All right, so basically, I started working at a group home job because I'm here in Provo, Utah. I'm not in my own apartment right now because rent
Mm.
prices are crazy. And I'm just like, why don't I just move back with my mom? Because I was evicted earlier. I didn't have a job, and
Living
so
that
I was
life.
I was working on my startup company, and I was like, why, like, why can't I get a job, like a regular job at like the local convenience store or somewhere?
Mm.
Like they wouldn't hire me at like I think it was Target. Yeah, Target wouldn't hire
Okay.
me. And then I was like, I can't get a part-time job at Target, but I can work on these startup companies. Like, how does that work? And so I was like, all my resources that I had earlier, I put into like business, you
Mm.
know? And then once I failed or I made a mistake or something, I was like, oh man, well, I'm going to zero. And so for me, it was lucky because I could just go back to my mom's house, and I'd be okay. But for the
Definitely.
majority of people, right? You're not going back to your mom's house. You're not going back to your father's house or your friends or whatever. Like you're just going to go to zero and then you could get wiped out completely because it's COVID
Mm.
time, right? It's pandemic time. And the reason why I say this is like you working from like your room, the work life balance shift. If you don't learn to actually like level that out over time and have some type of like semblance of real balance in your life, it just becomes very difficult to function.
Oh, definitely. So I'm in the same boat as you. I've had to come home, live with my parents, live with my mum at the moment. And it makes you think, 'cause I'm turning 25 next month. You're like, shit, I'm 25, living with my mum still. It's not what I want to do. But then I think we're in a world though where it's frowned upon to be doing this, but I think it's a necessity. So I read somewhere where the generation, I think it was like, I can't remember what generation it was, but our generation of the younger people, they say, I think millennials or Gen X, by the time we're 25, we should have 17 different different pathways, different careers, and we're the most educated generation due to the fact that our parents and they in the world that we're in, it's so hyper competitive, and we've been born into this world, so we've had to be able to change and go along with it. But on the other side, because we've been brought up with the internet and we are so well educated, we can also realize how when we're in a bad job, and that is why we can move so much. So it is really interesting of people saying like, oh, we look at it being like, oh, it's a bad thing to live with our parents, but then vice versa, I'm going to be 25 with the masters. How many times do you hear that happening?
Yeah, and I realized like for me, the way people like look at me, they're like, "Why are you living with your mom? Like you could afford to move out." And I'm just like, "But do I really want to go move out? Like, do I really want to go somewhere and pay this insane amount of rent when I can just stay here, save up a bit, and then I'll be good. Like I can take care of my family, I can take care of my friends. Like I don't have to stress financially unless I make more mistakes or I fail at the company or something again. But like gathering these experience points, right? Especially in business when you're early on, like you want to get as many iterations of failures and mistakes done
Yeah,
quickly when you're young because when you're older, like you can't be failing when you're 35 or 40 because if you have more responsibility at that point, right? Like you have wife and kids or something, like
definitely.
if you go to zero then you're really screwed. And so the reason why I wanted to have this discussion with you is because my whole purpose with the esports investment network was like, man, I can't keep up with the demand for people. And like I never thought I'd be saying that, but like I'm at the point in my life where it's like I have to decline job opportunities. Someone like last year, someone offered me like uh I think it was like a $40 an hour job, and I was like, I can't even accept that because
Wow.
like I have to. It's really strange too because I have to go through my own history and be like, well, like I wasn't hired at Target, but like if I just be myself, I can get paid, $40 an hour by the X person. But like I couldn't accept it because there was all these other opportunities which I had to consider throughout the year, and I only make maybe 2 to 3 choices of like an organization to work with. Like I'll be their marketing director or something, and then I'll do that for like a little bit of time, and then I'll move on. And so I realized I could move very quickly by myself, but if I just formed this community where I can teach them what I've learned over the past like 2.5 years, I just be like, okay, guys, listen, I actually went to a good business school, top 10%. It wasn't horrible, right? It's like ranked 100 and something. So it's not too bad. But the problem is like I didn't need to stay in business school anymore. After you get like once you get to a certain level of basic understanding of how economics works, like you don't need to go
Yeah.
to school anymore. You don't need to go to like a regular job. You can just do anything that would be profitable in terms of what's supply and demand dictates. And so for me, I realized I need to look at Provo, Utah, where I had demand here. I had a few angel investors contact me, and like one of the business person contacted me. They wanted to meet me here in Provo, and I was like, I can't do that. Like I just don't have the time. And I realized due to COVID, like I can't even meet people in my own city. And I thought like that was really crazy because like before I'd be like, oh yeah, I'd go hang out with friends or be with my family for a while. But now it's like I can't even see my family all the time. Like and like
Yeah.
I live in the same house as my mother, and like I don't even get to see my mom often. And so
Oh
it's like
wow.
it's at the point where I don't have work life balance.
Mm.
But I realize because when I was younger, I did have work life balance. I realized the shift I had to make to get to this point where I'm at, and I'm just like, wow, I probably need to do more high leverage in terms of like return on effort activities,
Yeah.
not just return on like capital investment, but like I need to put my time into something where it's like I can't be cleaning up the house anymore, because if my time is worth more than $40 an hour, like I'm literally just losing money cleaning up my own house where I can hire someone else. And so like for me, like if you saw my room, it's just a mess. Like I just don't clean. I have to do too many other important tasks throughout the day, and I just can't remember to clean because it's not on my list of things to do. I just have maybe once a week where I just clean everything
Mm.
myself just to make sure it is clean at some point. But then other than that, like I'm not gonna go through it again throughout the entire week.
Yeah, I think that's quite a common thing for entrepreneurs in gaming. So I'm very much the same myself, as where I think it's how through being gamers, it's just a mind of how we compartmentalize stuff in our minds, of like how we put on the value. So an example I give is like, as gamers, we always want to find the most effective way through a level. We don't want to waste time. We want to find, if I can get to the end of this point at 30, it takes 30 steps to get to the end of this level. I want to do it in 20, just because my time is precious in this game. But then we subconsciously do that in our work as well, but we don't realize the value on it. And we just like, we would see it as like throughout our whole lives, well, we've just been told we're lazy and you're lazy gamers and all this kind of stuff. And I think the view set and the mindset needs to change on that, of how we're not lazy, we're just efficient. And it's how we view, what do we view as being efficient in our time? And again, because I'm gonna say I'm terrible for tidying up, I'm an absolute worst for it. But then if you put me into something else, and I will find the most efficient way to do this and the quickest way to do it, not because I think it's the easiest way, just because it's easy doesn't mean it's the wrong way. And I think that's a big thing people are missing out, especially. And it's just because us as gamers, it's natural to us, we don't realize the benefit of that.
Yeah, I realized my coach earlier before I blocked him on Discord app, like I only blocked him because he insulted me. He said, "You're not ready to make some of the decisions you need to make." And I was like, I've been doing like top level business stuff for over a year. And like
Mm.
I can't move down a level, right? Like once you reach a certain level of like income or like status per se, like if you move down a level, then you always have to go back up because you've already been through the path of most resistance to get to that level. And now you
Yeah.
know the path of least resistance to go back to that level. And like now I'm just like I can't go back to AutoZone or like Culver's or McDonald's and work at these places, because it's like it's not about how much money I'm earning. I can earn however much money I want on my own business. It's about the use of my time and how efficient I can be with my time. And right now it's like I'm in an appointment with Oliver to discuss esports investments and opportunities where people can just learn and gain the knowledge they need to improve. And we could do this very quickly, very efficiently. But then other people are like, why would you even have this appointment? Like you could just go create another company or something. But then just before this appointment, I just removed my domain kind of holding on the esportsinvestmentnetwork.com and .co, because I was like, you know what, screw it. I'm not even going to do the website. I'm not even going to do that whole part of the business. I'm just going to have like the YouTube channel and the Discord server and be like, listen, guys, just come in here for free. I'm not even going to make you pay for it. I just I can't be bothered to try and like monetize it at this
Mm.
point. Cause I'm just like, the time to it's really weird. Like when I was younger, I was like, what if I just had a community and I could monetize it? But that now that I have the community and I can monetize it, I'm just like, I can't even be bothered. Like I have too many other things on my mind and things I have to do throughout the day. Like I just can't sit down and be like, oh, this person subscribed to the community. Like that's great. Like no, I'm not gonna do that myself. One of my friends, she offered, because she was my secretary throughout part of last year, she offered to help me. She's like, I could just go through your emails and like do it for you to help you with your time efficiency. And I was like, I can't even have that. Like I can't have someone, not because it's like invasion of privacy and business emails and stuff like that, but it's like it's just not efficient enough for me. I'm like, we can program a bot and have a bot do it. Otherwise, like I can't see how I'm gonna monetize this, because if I can just give you or someone else the information for free, and then you can go and implement and like not have to come back to the community, or you can come back later if you need resources, like that'd be great. But I just saw it as such an impediment to the progress that I needed when I was younger. Like if someone made me pay $50 a month to join the Discord server, I wouldn't have been able to do that when I was younger. But now that I can, I'm just like, the broke / poor version of me wouldn't have considered that option. But like I have to think back to that level of my lifestyle.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, if I was broke and poor in esports again, what would I be doing right now? And it's like, oh, okay, well, if I'm at McDonald's and I'm just looking at YouTube videos, then this is probably how it's going to be.
Yeah, definitely. And I think with the whole thing of talking about investment, I think that really plays into well to my personal view on everything about, because you asked one of the questions you said about what questions, like preface of this is like, what investments have you seen in esports in the past 6 to 12 months? And it was really hard to find a specific investment into something. But my overall thought was, it's actually how I think people should be investing in their communities. And that is the best thing that people should be doing in esports if they're looking to invest, looking at communities rather than, well, people or personalities with communities. Because like a thing that I believe heavily is that, okay, you were talking about not wanting to monetize your fans, but a big belief of mine is the 1,000 true fan theory. Is like Devin Nash talks about it a lot, and also it's a big ethos of mine in a lot of the stuff of how 1,000 true fans, if they give you £100 a year, or $100, sorry, wherever we're based, that's £100,000 or dollars per year. And I think too many people are trying to aim for the big stars, and like, because you see the numbers of gaming and numbers of esports, and everyone's like, oh, I have to jump on board, I want to get to the maximum. But reaching that it's almost impossible, as where reaching 1,000 people, that's the money. And I think that's where the future of esports and the future of business of gaming is going to go, is with the individuals, with the communities, over the big brands or that kind of, because that's, and you even see it in esports teams. So a prime example is CLG. They started off as one of the main, like before LCS was made, them and TSM had the ultimate rivalry in esports. Like if you were to mention League of Legends, American League of Legends, straight away, TSM, CLG, in that rivalry. And that was fueled by the community behind them. It wasn't fueled by, okay, the players put in a bit of it, but like the community is what fueled all of that. And you see that now of where CLG, they just kind of given up. They got investment from Madison Square Garden, and they didn't play on to building a personality or building a brand following with a message or anything like that. And I was going to say, for the main thing for business esports and investment is that you need to make sure that you have a brand purpose. So why are you doing this? What is it going to make people come in? Because with esports and in gaming, we're such a skeptical generation. We were brought up on the internet. Alongside that came every single scam that there was. We've been as an industry, everyone's tried to milk us where they can. Prime example for the Activision Blizzard thing with World of Warcraft. Take away the sexual harassment part, people are leaving just because they're not getting value from the game they loved. They realized that it was like the World of Warcraft became a yearly thing in December. Like, oh, the new patch is coming out. Normally it'd be there for like 6 months of content. It's now 6 weeks of content, and then it's just like, okay, you have to pay to get the rest. And we're so skeptical of this, and we're so tired of this. So it's more, you need to get the purpose why you're doing this and why people jump on, what your values are. So it was Simon Sinek says every time people make any decision, subconsciously we ask ourselves the question, do people like me do things like this? And the best way for a brand or a business to align as people like me is you just get your values the same. So it's like doing that. And then you finish it all off with the story of the reason why. And that pulls it all together. And I think in the modern day, if a business hasn't got that in esports, they're not going to make it. And if you're looking to invest or do anything like that, that's the first three things that you should be looking at. Not if how many views they got, not what reach they've got. It's what is their brand, what is their values, and how does that align with their target audience?
Yeah, it's pretty accurate because for me, I had to really think back because like when I was super broke and poor, and I'm thinking like I didn't have resources, I didn't have a network, and then the crazy part was like I applied to join the military, but then I failed like their IQ test. But then I looked back and I was like, did I really fail or did I just not care to pass? Because like I really thought about it and I was like, do I really want to join the military? Like they're not gonna make me rich or super wealthy. And like I really thought about that for a second. I was like, okay, I understand why I failed it now because I just didn't care to really study. And no, I just didn't put any real effort into it. I got like a few points below passing, and so I realized like subconsciously I wanted to put in the minimum amount of effort to not pass, but it looked like I tried, and then
Yeah.
I realized I'm only at this point just because I didn't go to the military. But then even if I went to the military, I would have realized I would have joined the military esports league, and like I've talked with the people who run that, and it's just like there's so many people who, if they knew what they could achieve in esports, and not like look at my success, right? Because my success is like really disproportionate to people. Like if you look at the Pareto distribution of like going from McDonald's to like homeless, houseless to like where I'm at now, it's like okay, it doesn't make a lot of logical sense. And I was speaking with an artist about it. She's like, "How are you so young and you've achieved everything you've achieved?" And I'm like, I tried to like rationalize it in my mind. I'm like, okay, no girlfriend. I don't really hang out with any friends at all except my barber when I get a haircut. I work like 10 plus hours a day. But then like those things aren't really like outliers. Like anybody could do those things. But then I really thought about it deeply and I was like, wait. I literally created like so many different company business ideas and they all failed. Like I had so many mistakes and I just messed up. I went to zero multiple times. I lost all my money. I lost friends, family lost respect for me. And then I realized I've been through the worst of it and I'm only 22. So I literally I can't have a worse life anymore. It can only go up from here. And so from this artist's perspective, I think or I know the way she sees me, she's like, "Oh, I'm a bit envious of your success. The way people see you and what you've achieved." And I'm like, no, you're not envious. It's just that for you, you're playing the same games other people are playing in terms of status or like power or resources, right? But for me, when I was at McDonald's, I didn't go into esports for money or status or power. I did it because I'm passionate about it, right? Like I already knew way more about esports and gaming and business than most people, but I was working at McDonald's, right? I didn't do anything with the knowledge. But when I got on LinkedIn, when I got online, I just made a few posts, right? Started getting all these followers. People were like, "Oh, you're so smart." I'm like, "No, I'm not smart. I was working at McDonald's like literally yesterday. I just quit." But then the funny part is like I got to a point where people like there are a few ladies, and I always mention ladies because a lot of them want to get mentoring from me from some reason. Like they just contact me like, "Well, how do you do this?" or how do you believe I should plan out XYZ steps for my next moves? And I'm like, I have no idea, but I'll tell you what I would probably not do. And so I told people what I wouldn't do. And then based on what I told them not to do, they're trying to like guess my IQ. And someone's like, "Oh, your IQ is like 140." And I'm like, probably not. But since I know what my IQ level is, and so I try not to tell people what it is because it's
Hmm.
really I realize when you're super smart, you have to be very careful how you communicate with people, or else you can basically break a communication barrier based on a few words, or if your body language is poor, you can really break the communication barrier between people. And so I realized my communication level has to increase just to talk to smart people, but then I also have to dumb myself down to talk to people who just aren't as intelligent. And I realized if I keep like an even, maybe like 105 to like 125 IQ level in terms of my speech, most people can relate to me on some level. If you're like 80 IQ, then it might be difficult, but that's like really disproportionate on the lower level. So I thought I need to be able to create this network for investment where people don't have to pay me any money to be a broker or a mentor, etc. Like I don't want to get their money. That's not the purpose. The purpose is to get them the knowledge and resources and access to investors and sponsors that they need in esports, because people are just wasting so much time and energy, where if you focus on the path of least resistance, which most people don't really do, like I realized that was really strange. Like people will literally contact me, tell me that they have a funding problem, and yet they have no sponsors, right? They don't have like any sales. And I'm just like, you don't have a funding problem, you just suck at business. And like
Yeah.
nobody tells these people these things. They're just like, oh well, the only thing holding our organization or team back is funding. And I'm like, no, you suck at business. And like I know, because I sucked at business, right? But then now people are like paying me to work on their brands or different startup companies, and like these are multi-million-dollar brands. Some of these brands are even Fortune 100 brands, right? And then they're contacting me, and I'm just like, okay, so I know I don't suck at business anymore because I'm doing this, but at the same time, I can't communicate that high level business to someone who's just not able to even get one sale. And I realized if I just give people the free information and they implement it, or they don't, then that's fine. I don't want to charge people a ton of money or even any money, because I can earn money different ways in esports and gaming. What I need to do is just be able to give people the knowledge that I have in a very efficient manner, because a lot of people just they don't seem to grasp like how I do the things that I do and why I do the things that I do. And so if I can just explain them in a very simple way, and they can actually see my lifestyle as I start vlogging in the future, like they'd be like, oh well, Adam is actually pretty normal dude, except he just doesn't waste time as much as a lot of these other people do. And like for me, I speak with you often because I realize, okay, if I can get Oliver to understand how I work, then maybe Oliver can help someone else in the future, and that network effect can compound. Whereas if I'm speaking with a person who doesn't even know how to get one sale for their esports team or esports organization, like what can I possibly do for that person? You know, like they're at level 0. They haven't gotten even to level 1 yet. And so I can't go from my level like 20 and like make it a path of least resistance for them, because they just can't comprehend level 20 yet.
Definitely. I think a big thing as well for people in getting into esports and even just in business is we set rules on ourselves, even in life alone, we set rules on ourselves that aren't even there. So an example of this was when I first started my degree, because I did business enterprise as my degree. We had to set up and run a business through university. Like, sounds like it's a project we actually did on a legit business. But the first thing we ever did was we got an A4 sheet of paper, and that sheet of paper was just filled of circles. And my lecturer goes, right, you've got 5 minutes, draw as many things as you can in these circles. And we go, right, okay. He goes, time starts now. As soon as the time starts, everyone heads down, just scribbling away. And 5 minutes goes, he goes, right, finished. And he goes, so the first question he goes, he's like, okay, how many of you asked the person next to you to help you? Silence. He goes, okay. How many of you use more than one circle to draw a picture? Silence. And he goes, okay, so why did you do that? Hand goes up, first person, he goes, well, you never said we could. He goes, never said you couldn't. And that, when I had that in my first week of my degree, and that was like 4 years ago, and I've held it ever since. I was like, oh wow, because the amount of time I've been people are like, oh, why don't you just do it like this? Oh, well, I can't do that. I'm like, why not? He goes, oh, but it's never been done before. I was like, just because it's never been done doesn't mean it's not, you can't do it. And I think that's the biggest thing that people, they're too quick to put up the problem rather than trying to look for the solution. So, for example, for myself, I wanted to get into esports, and that was the whole reason why I've done my education. and I work backwards. And I think it's a lot too many people try and see where I'm at now and work forwards rather than seeing where I want to be and work backwards. Okay, so I want to be in esports. What do I need to do that? Okay, I need to get the right connections. Okay, how do I get the right connections? Okay, I need to try and talk to this person. How can I talk to that person? And you work backwards rather than working forwards. And you see with people in esports are either really shit hot on gaming, but don't know the business part of it, or really know the business, but don't know gaming. And we're starting to see that starting to mold and change a bit more with our generation of how we've been brought up in gaming. And now we're putting that information and knowledge into business. And I'm massive on bringing new people into the industry, and I'm massive on creating more jobs, because it's very much a gatekeeper at the moment of where if you're trying to get into an esports team, or a big thing is people say when they work in esports, they straight away think of a team. The chances of that happening are so hard because the teams don't have the money, because they're so reliant on sponsorship, and sponsorship only comes if your team's doing well. Your team's only doing well if you've got the money, and if you've not got the money because you've not got the sponsorship, how are you going to get a good team? So then from that, you can't afford to pay for a lot of staff members. So often than not, from the people that I've spoke to, esports teams, you'll have a person doing 1, 2, 3, 4 roles in the one person. So how are you going to be able to beat that one person who can do those 4 roles if they've got no money? Well, you need to make yourself invaluable. And a big thing for me, because with my degree, I've got a lot of experience in setting up businesses, in marketing, all this kind of stuff, but it wasn't anything specific. So I didn't do like a marketing degree. I didn't do a design degree. So I couldn't go and apply for a marketing job. And I would sit there talking to my lecturer. I was like, Trevor, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I've got all these skills for after employment, and I know I'm really valuable there, but I've got nothing to get me employed. And he's like, Oli, what are you on about? You've got the skills that people are wanting. Like, you've got a business mindset and the knowledge of gaming. And I think people need to assess, okay, where am I currently at? What have I got? And it's a hard question of asking, like, what skills have I got? Because no one likes talking about themselves. But even if you think, what do I enjoy doing? And you need to think about, okay, so I enjoy doing, so you say like my fun is like skateboarding. Magical thing is like, okay, I want to make money out of skateboarding. Okay, I can't be a pro skateboarder because my friend, he's a lot better than me. He can do a double kick flip where I'm struggling to do one. Okay, so what can I do from here? Well, this is all like make believe, but I've got a friend who owns a forest. Well, I could start making skateboards my own, and that's how. And it's just looking at different avenues and taking a step back from your dream. Okay, what avenues can I take, and how can I get there, rather than just thinking I need to do this now. I need to do this the right way everybody else is doing. And but like you said to me the other day, it was really interesting with esports and gaming. You need to look a year and a half in the future, because if you're trying to look for the now, especially in tech, you're just going to get far behind. I think it's called the digital divide, where basically the rate of technology is advancing double each year. So obviously when it first started, it's quite slow, but now we've got to the point where I can learn something technology this year, and then in 2022, it's irrelevant and obsolete. And you need to keep up with that divide and keep going with it. So you need to look, okay, so where's this going to be? Here's where it's currently at. Here's where it's going to be, and here's where I fit into that and what I can do with it. And I think that's just, and we've got the power of the internet. You can research everything and anything now, and just have conversations like this, videos like this. And I think we're in the golden age, and we're going to see a boom in the next 5 to 10 years, especially with COVID. I'm preaching that COVID's pushed us forward in the development cycle by 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, I agree with you. Definitely the singularity, as we call it in technology, it's like as we approach the singularity, as technology advances so quickly to the point where we just can't even distinguish it from like everything else in our daily lives. It's just like, oh well, we're eating some food, but like it's been engineered by some random person in Asia, right? And like there's nothing natural about it. But like for you'll never know because you're never gonna meet the person in Asia who just engineered this food for you. But like you feel like it's organic, right? Your taste buds can't tell the difference anymore. And like a lot of people will think, well, bananas are organic, and I'm like, no, they're not. Like bananas are one of the most engineered things ever. And like a lot of people don't know how to relate that to esports and technology, because for me, like I'm working with some of these huge brands and like they're working on some crazy technology, and I'm like, I didn't even know this stuff existed. And like right now, even with my IQ, I can't even explain to you like what some of this technology does, because it's just so like it just completely destroys everything I knew about technology and esports and gaming. And so I'm just like I don't have the words, I don't have the vocabulary, the vernacular, right? And so I need to like hire a graphic designer and then hire some other like marketing person and build some like pitch deck about what the technology does to explain it to you. And like I realized that's probably the most efficient way to do it because I just can't use words to explain some of these things. But people don't see that in esports yet. They're like, oh well, we're gonna be playing Valorant a year from now. I'm like, no, right? Games came out with so many different games so quickly and in such a consecutive order, right? And you just can't tell where you're gonna be a year from now or a year and a half from now. That's why I told you that because I'm like a year ago, I had a I had multiple positions managing esports teams and esports organizations, and then a year and a half ago, I also had an esports startup company, and then now I'm just trying to go through this freemium model and just be like, okay, guys, listen, there's some crazy things that are going to happen in esports and gaming, but if you can't project at least a year and a half in the future, like it'll be so difficult to see like where artificial, intelligence will go, or virtual reality, augmented reality, mixed reality. Like people don't even know what some of those terms mean. They're like, well, okay, what's the technology to you? I'm like, I can't explain it to you because you haven't seen some of it implemented in esports very well yet, but it's there. Like I've seen it. I just can't explain it to you. And a lot of people just think if I can move myself where the cash is, right? They go to investors and sponsors. I'm like, no, don't try to position yourself into these humongous cash flow streams where the odds of you getting funded are like 2% or less in venture capital, like private equity. Like, don't waste your time there. Don't even waste your time as sponsors at this point. Like, you can go, like we mentioned, we talked about decentralized finance earlier. And what I really thought was crazy was that people don't really understand yet that you can actually fund your entire esports organization or esports team through decentralized finance. But like nobody talks about that. Like I just don't understand. Like, why do you need an angel investor or sponsor where you can just go DeFi and fund your entire company? People are there. Like we have whales with 600 like $1 million worth of Bitcoin, and you can see these transfers on the blockchain. And it's just like I don't understand. These guys are just like, Adam, I need some angel investors today or like next week or like next month. And I'm like, what? Like if you're in that position, you shouldn't have a startup company. Like for me, and I got to talk about my coach again because before I blocked him, he talked about his SaaS company. And I'm not going to reveal any information specifically, but like he had so much funding for it. And I was like, dude, you could build a no code app for free and like get the first 100 users, like you can build the minimum viable product. No, even better, not even a minimum viable product, the minimum viable company with no code. And then
Yep.
once you get some actual validation from the market, right? People buy, you have sales revenue, cash flow, it's positive. Like then you can go get some funding from someone else with like a proof of your legitimate business. But for him, he's like, I remember he DM'd me on Discord and he's like, I got X amount of money. And I'm like, okay, but like he didn't tell me he has X amount of sales.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the part where I started thinking, I'm like, this person's stupid. like I wasn't trying to be rude to him in my mind, but I was like, knowing what I know now, and because I'm going to be in SaaS for the rest of my life, it's just the best business model that I can work on right now. I'm like, knowing what I know now, I wouldn't invest any money to build a SaaS company at first. I would just go no code because it's going to make people billionaires in the next 5 to 10 years. Like it's just so simple and anyone can do it. But for him, he had to get so much upfront capital and he was trying to explain to me about how business works. And I'm like, listen, man, I understand that he's coaching me for XYZ, but at the same time, like my level of startup business knowledge and knowing it's really interesting because for him, he's not building a startup company, right? It's a small business. So for me, I'm just like, it's not efficient enough. Like that's my only thought. I was like, I couldn't run a small business like that because it's not efficient enough for me to go like after these angel investors and VCs, even though I could get the money, I know how to do that. I've done it before. But then like I wasted a lot of time getting the capital when I could just be getting sales. And more important than just the sales, that could be getting some loyal customers that are true fans, like you said before. And
Yeah.
I was like, I can't seem to build any business without that mindset now, without that competitive advantage, because I know wasting time on getting funding now it's so ineffective in esports for many companies, especially North America. Like I was speaking with someone from Esports Bar Americas earlier, and she works in Japan, and she was telling me about the way Japanese esports companies are run or ran currently run, and many of them are funded by huge organizations, and they're profitable, but they're not profitable because they're funded by huge organizations. Just the thought culture is different from North America. These guys don't waste any money. They're super efficient, and they know how to monetize. And it's just that they can do this repeatedly, right? And they have true fans because of the gaming culture there, right? The thought culture. People don't look at gaming as something that's a waste of time. They're like, okay, well, you don't have to be on an esports team or an esports organization at all. You can be working at Netflix, right? Be someone who's an actual data analyst for gaming, and then you might have an esports project one day, right? Like then you're in esports. Like that's a
Yep.
six-figure plus career just like that, being a data analyst for Netflix for gaming, and people are just like never thinking about that.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see how it's all developing. So like I'm currently done an internship with this business. I can't talk much about it because I'm under NDA, but the fact that where we're at the moment is we you want to build something. So a big thing I've always remembered is if you need money, money will come if you know how you're going to spend it. You'll find a lot of these people they'll be like looking for money, but they don't clearly know. I need money. If I was to go to you and I say, right, I need 10,000 or 10 million, sorry, because I need to do X amount on this, X amount, and the return from that is going to be this, X amount on that return is going to be this. And you clearly explain it out, explain again, going back to the purpose and values, you put that in there as well. Even if it's, I think, even if you don't have if you're looking for funding, you can obviously do the freeware you mentioned, but if you have them, people are going to come. So it's like the way I explained it was if you were to build the X-Men, so you build your team, there's a high chance there's going to be someone out there who's going to want to invest in building the school. Like, do you know what I mean? So if you could have your solid team and the X-Men came up to you, we got this team, we got this guy who does this, he saves that. Someone's like, oh wow, do you guys want a house to live in? I'll put my name on top of it so when everyone comes. And I think that's the way to do it, is rather than trying to scrape from money and pull it all through, is if you can build something comprehensive and shows that you have money, even if it is just theory, but if you have a plan behind that theory that's clear move of action of what your steps are going to be, that's where that's how you do it, because you can have all these like wish guessing and all this kind of stuff, but if you don't have the processes behind it, it's going to fail. Because I think it's like 80% of businesses fail because they weren't prepared for scalability. So they get all this money and they're doing all this running and they're going amazing. Someone goes, oh, amazing, yeah, I love what you're doing, you're looking amazing, here's a load of money. And then they've not planned past that and they don't know what to do. So an example, I can't remember what it was called, but there was this Asian vending machine company, and they were doing amazing in Asia. They would give it, I think they had pre-made meals in Japan, or I can't remember actually where it was, but it was doing really, really well. And then they got to the point where they were looking for an angel investor, and they got to a VC, and they gave them the money they wanted, but they said, the condition of this is though within a year, I want you to put 10 more machines out there in the world. And they were like, right, okay, yep, sounds doable. Again, going really well. They managed to get 8 new machines in there. But in doing that, they spent all their time focusing on these last 2 machines, because it was like, and the VCs were not budging. They mentioned this random, like, we've got it in, we've got these machines, but we're just too short. Like, nope, that was the terms of the contract. And they spent all the time trying to get these 2 machines on. And whilst that was happening, they didn't have enough time to focus on the business. So the machines were starting to go a bit faulty, but they couldn't invest the time to sort that out because they would lose all their money. And then from that, people were then losing trust in their value. And then they lost, and then the business ended up failing because they got the 10 machines in there, but by the time they got the 10 machines in, everyone lost the trust in the machines, and then no one started using them. And it's really interesting of how people always are looking for the money. And it's a big thing in gaming. People are always looking for the cash, always for the cash grab, because with gaming, we are the most loyal, but also the most savage community. And where if we follow you, we'll die for you. If we hate for you, we'll kill you. And it can be in the middle, but that's not like, we are a dedicated audience. And people really need to focus on providing the value to that audience and then that's how they'll follow. So, for example, TSM, the reason why TSM is so big, they provided their fans the content, and they gave them the value behind that. They gave them the behind the scenes that they wanted. We saw Reggie and Dyrus arguing when Dyrus rage. That's what pulled people in. It wasn't because, okay, they were winning, that's cool and all that kind of stuff, that helped. But it's because we saw what was happening behind the winning, and that was the value added. And it's lost too much in gaming because the numbers are so big and it's so lucrative and all these businesses are coming in. But you really need to provide value, provide the reason why, and then money will follow after that.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. My expectation for esports has changed because I realized just this last year, like esports was never about winning the game on the screen. Like I remember playing League of Legends for so many hours a day trying to stream, and I got to like Platinum 2, and I was like, you know what? I'm better than like 90% of players. So what? Like it didn't improve my lifestyle net worth, you know? Like people are so focused on financial net worth in esports and gaming, but I'm like, your lifestyle net worth needs to improve like 100% before your financial net worth will improve. And so I realized streaming League of Legends for me as a Platinum 2 player, just like 1.5 million mastery points on Kha'Zix, like that's not improving my lifestyle net worth quickly enough. And so I realized I'm gonna quit gaming for a while and start aiming. And that's what I titled my book. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna quit gaming, start aiming, and then I'm gonna move in a way that is most not just efficient, but it makes sense logically for me because my skill set, right? I dropped out of business school, right? I was no longer going to these people who were trying to teach me about business. Instead, I was teaching these people about business. And that's what happened, right? I dropped out of Utah Valley University. And then guess what? Not too long ago, someone from Utah Valley University reached out to me to help them with esports development. And so now I'm working on that esports project, right? And I'm just like, okay, I dropped out of your school. You came back for me. You're probably in trouble. And like, I didn't say that, but I could just tell. I'm like, okay, it makes sense for them to contact me because I'm the best at what I do. But I'm only the best at what I do because I dropped out of their program and I just focused on improving my lifestyle net worth. But people don't realize, like, for me at my job right now at the group home, I'm earning $12 an hour, and people are like, "Oh, how do you survive on that?" I mean, it's like I'm so minimalistic. Like when I'm not working, I legit just do art or I study art, and like that's what my day is. Like I work and then I study art or create art, and I don't share the art with people. I just create it and I enjoy it. It's my passion, it's an interest, it's a hobby. But then I realize it's again improving my lifestyle net worth, not just my financial net worth with these skills. But people in esports, they're like, let me go after these sponsors, let me go after these investors. And I'm like, okay, but your lifestyle net worth sucks. Your lifestyle net worth is literally like -5 going after these people because they don't care about you. Like I realized when I was speaking with someone from one of these Fortune 100 brands, and he was telling me, he's like, the only thing I'm gonna really position this company to invest in if I ever get a recommendation is like unique technology companies in esports. And I was like, why unique technology? And this gentleman said, there's something about the technology when you see it, right? And it's new. People just don't understand it yet. But to be able to understand that, to be able to learn about it, to be able to use it, feel it in your hand, like actually see it, like that changes people and the thought culture changes about technology, especially in gaming. And I realized this is why a lot of people just go after the money because they want to create these cool tech companies. But then I'm like, if Play Versus is worth like hundreds of millions of dollars, right? Like it's some crazy valuation, but the technology isn't anything new. And I was like, what are people valuing this company at? Like, why are they doing this? And like for me, I didn't understand it for a long time, but then I realized it's because of the scale, right? In esports, you can scale so quickly with these users. Like I haven't seen it anywhere else. And I was like, people will legitimately able to ride or die with you in esports. And I realized if I'm trying to monetize my Discord community for $50 a month, people will join it. But then I'm going to exclude so many other people who don't want to pay that or they can't pay it. And I was like, I don't want to exclude anybody. I want to get to the point where people have so much value for free Like, they don't have to pay me for my time and energy, that they can just be successful and they can still interact with me. They can still have a relationship with me that isn't really so parasocial, right? Like, it's not transactional. It can just be like, hey, Adam, let's have a call. And I'll be like, dude, it's 2 a.m. I'll have a call with you. And then, like, like, I want to be that person for somebody.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. I think the scary thing, the amazing thing with gaming is, and the audience is, what other industry or audience do you know that gives away money for free? What other industry is built on that? There's literally platforms that are built on people giving away money for free, and I can't, like, even sports, like how many, like, for me, for soccer or football, like I couldn't imagine like how many football fans being like, oh mate, football club, take my free money, I don't want to do anything with it. That's what we have in game. We literally have, Twitch is people begging for money and people accepting and being like, here, take it. And the future is going to be is how can you offer something for free, but then also give the option to people to pay, because people want it, people believe in us, and like yourself, like people would want to give you money, I'm sure, and you're there like, after I say no. And I think that is where the future of business, not even just gaming, I think that's where business is going to go, is where you will have to, because there's such high competition, we've got such freedom of information through the internet. We are now, as I said, mentioned before, we're the most educated generation with the most qualified skills due to how many jobs we've had. There's just so much competition and choice we have that you're going to have to start giving us a value somewhere else rather than just your product. So is whether it is relationship that way through meeting other people, extra content, or however it is, that is going to be the future. And I think that's shown again through content creators and how they're becoming the forefront, because they're providing value to us by us watching and enjoying their content and the stuff that they create. And people are wanting to give them free. Like, it's just crazy when you see some of these streamers, or like even small streamers, like there's such dedicated fans. Like my friend, he streams like 20 people, not many. I'm on his Discord, that it's just popping off every single day of just people chatting. And I'm talking like, yo, Jordan, how's this going for you? And he's like, really good. Stream to 20 people, but I'm pulling in $1,000 a month. And like, it's just that mindset of people want to go really big, really quickly, but then they don't understand that they have to give value to do that, but they also don't understand how they can give value through that. So it's not just sitting there playing games. It's like, you realize this in sitting down, chatting to people and educating them. In the future, that could have a benefit, because say, if I get really well in a high-end company and I'm like, oh, I see where Adam can fit in here, that's a relationship you've made in the future that then cashes in. I think too many people think of the instant, again, it's instant gratification. It's a burden of our generation of like, we want it now. We see that big red button and we just want to slap the hell out of it and just get something going for us, as where esports is the long play. You see too many gaming, you see too many of these get rich quick schemes, and not even that, but like these amazing stories of people doing really well out of nowhere. They're the unicorns. That doesn't happen frequently. As where if you really want to get into esports or into gaming, you've got to be in this for the long run. Prime example, I've been doing education for 4 or 5 years now, and I'm just at the intern stage of it. But in doing that, I'm now being able to the opportunity of moving forward really far in this business, just for only being here after a couple of months. And it's the long haul play that people don't see. And I think that is the true benefit of gaming, is that we really can play the long haul game and really benefit of it and pull people along us as it's happening.
Yeah, I definitely agree there. There's a part where I agree most, where you said that you want to go for the long haul play, but then also pull people with you, because your success, right? Again, distribution throughout network effect, which can reach millions of people, right? And so for me, I realized when I quit McDonald's, I was like, okay, I don't have a job. But then in esports and gaming, a lot of people wanted to hire me. But then I didn't take most of these jobs. I didn't even get paid for a lot of the work that I do. And people were like blasting my LinkedIn. They're like, why are you only working with some company for like a day or a month? And I'm like, it's because some companies are trash. It's because other companies only have a contract with me for a month. And then it's because there are a few companies where it's like, I'll actually stay with you for a month or two, or maybe 3 months, maybe 4 months. Like, there are a few companies that you should actually be working with long term. And people don't understand that in esports gaming. They're like, oh, I just want to get the best job, as much money as possible, and be there forever. And I'm like, no, like, if you can be able to have a really high life agility, right? You can move wherever you want. You can go to whatever company you want. That's what I aimed for. That's why I quit streaming. That's why I quit gaming and started aiming, because I was thinking, My goal as a streamer was to just play Kha'Zix and be really good at Kha'Zix. And I was Platinum 2, better than 90% of players in North America. But the problem with that is people who are in the top 10% will look at me and say, okay, but like your lifestyle still sucks, man. But then the other bottom, 90%, they're going to say, well, Adam, why don't you go to Diamond or Masters or Grandmasters or even Challenger and go pro? And I'm like, the effort it takes, right? Again, Pareto distribution of return on effort. It's not return on capital for me anymore, right? I've got enough money now. When I was streaming, I didn't have any money. I had to think about return on effort. So if you have no money, don't think about return on capital for what you're doing. Think about return on effort first, because if you're trying to stream for 20 people, for most people, they will not be able to pull in that 1K per month. It's just not possible, especially on Twitch, right? Because the distribution of people, it's definitely not equal. And the discovery it's too poor on the platform, even with recommendations, right? Even with hosts and raids, which don't even actually count to your viewership, which people don't understand that yet. They don't get the marketing. But if you can get at least 20 people on your stream concurrently, your stream is worth quite a bit of money. People don't realize that yet though. And I'm thinking, man, I had at one point like 5 to maybe up to 45 people watching at one point, and I was like, okay, that's not too bad. But then I didn't monetize well because I didn't care about the money. I just wanted to play Kha'Zix and get like really cool double jumps and stuff. But then I realized the point for me to stream was for enjoyment, right? For community that I had. And I did that and I had fun. But then when I focused on business, right, it wasn't just about the community and having fun anymore. It was about winning financially. And so my lifestyle net worth improved as I quit gaming. And so I focused on these investment opportunities with these companies. And I realized for some of the people that I'd mentored in the past, they're playing zero-sum games when they're hiring me, right? Because I'm a mentor, I'm a consultant, I'm a coach, I'm an advisor. They're playing a zero-sum game with me because they only need to hire me once. And they only need me for like 8 hours to do like a business strategy or whatever. And that's fine. It's zero sum for me, right? It ends at that point. It doesn't compound in the future unless I get some really high quality leads from them and I get like a recommendation or something. But for most people, when they work with me, it's zero sum because they don't see the relationship extending past this allotted time frame. And for people that are streaming or content creators or artists especially, they're all playing zero sum games, especially on Twitch. Whereas if you want to go to a platform like YouTube, right, you can have the same category as someone like Devin Nash. And that's what I'm going to plan to do with this channel. But I'm going to say, listen, Devin Nash, he quit social media because there was too much negative content that he was consuming. When I'm on social media, I'm on social media for money, right? I'm on social media for business purposes. I'm not trying to consume a bunch of content. I just can't do that with my time anymore. I'm not in that poverty mindset where it's a disease of the mind and you're only consuming, you're only there for entertainment. I'm there for production. What can I create? What can I give away for free? Because I don't need the money at this point. I'm good. And I realized I met someone on Twitter. I sent them a DM. I didn't really meet them because they didn't respond. They were really triggered. But they said on one of their posts, they were like, anyone who wouldn't agree with the FTX TSM opportunity is like XYZ or whatever. And I'm like, okay, I don't agree with the opportunity actually. I don't care how much money it is. It's hundreds of millions of dollars. I don't care. Quick money leads to slow problems. And people just don't see that yet in esports. And for me, I know Lena is really smart working on TSM. She's really great. One of the best, if not the best. And I can say that because I've interacted with people from TSM before. A lot of them are really high quality. And I only say that because I've interacted with them. But for people who don't know about TCM internally, I won't say anything personally, but you have to understand, to get that amount of money and to know what to do with the use of funds is really difficult. The average person on the street doesn't even know what to do with doesn't even know how to invest $100, right? So with $200 million, like this person would just lose their mind and the company would just crash and burn. And so this Pareto distribution of skill sets, people who are at Lena's level, right? Maybe like 3 people, maybe even 2 people in the entire world, right? Like not many people can even do Lena's job. I can't do that job. But the reason why I speak about this is that I want to be able to get to that level. And that's why I do the things that I do. I want to learn from Lena. I want to learn from people who can actually deploy this capital. And for me, right, I know what to do with $1 million. I've done that. I've been able to manage that before in a company. I know what to do with these small businesses because I've been able to work on my own small businesses and they all failed. I didn't so many mistakes. But through that experience, right, I know what to do with the use of funds now. I know how to not fail. And I realized if I create a company now and I own it, I don't want to monetize right away. What I really want to do is build up a massive audience, a massive community, and give up so much of my time and valuable attention to these people that they'll just tell me, listen, Adam, I don't know what to say anymore. Like, you've helped me build my business to like 20 million a month, and now we're rolling in dough. But like, I don't want to charge them for that, right? Because it wouldn't make sense. If you can take someone from 0 to 20 million a month, you're really good at what you do. But the problem is for me, I can take someone from 0 to maybe, okay, they're making a few hundred to a few thousand to a few 100,000, and that's cool. I've been able to work on really big brands, but the problem is the average person on Twitch can't do that. They will never be able to do that. And so I don't tell people about how to do that. I tell people about, okay, if you're on Twitch, don't stream this game or don't interact with this influencer because they're going to have a really bad brand rating because Twitch has that weird scoring function now. And some people just aren't safe to interact with on the platform. And people just don't seem to think on these different paradigms because Twitch is such a localized ecosystem and it's so small. But like, that's where all the trends start, right? It's where you get things like Among Us popping off. But people don't seem to understand. It's like, okay, if you have even one streamer with 20 concurrent viewers, that streamer is worth at least a few $100 to maybe a few $1,000. And in some cases, right, if you're like Devin Nash, those 20 viewers are people like me, and that stream could be worth maybe a few $100,000. And it's just like, I don't know.
It's really interesting as well that you mentioned about like knowing what to do with funds, because like it's the best example of it, Google. It's like I watched a video recently. It was about how I think Google's got 156 billion just sitting in the bank. They can't invest. They don't know what to invest it in. They don't know what to do with it. It's just sat there, and that's been there since I think before 2012. And they just because they've just expanded so much that they now have to go through all the bureaucracy of actually like, if I want to make any changes, you've got to get 13 people to sign off on it, and then all the rest. As where if you look at Amazon, they've not been making much profit because they've been putting it all back into the business. And I think that's a big thing of how we're talking here, of how everyone is always looking at the big number of the profit. Like, because if you was to look at Google, Amazon, and they would be like, oh yeah, we got all this profit, we're sitting here, like, you're thinking, oh wow, okay, so Google's doing a lot better than Amazon. Well, that'd be 10 years ago. You look at it now, you're like, oh, this person who's been investing, or this business that's been investing in themselves. So you take out Amazon for a person, they've been investing in themselves for all this time. They've been covering their overhead costs so they don't die. Obviously, if you're a person, make sure you can feed and live, but be reinvesting it in yourself so that in the future they're a thought leader. So they've got Alexa, who I don't know who, no other business did but Amazon Alexa before them. If they did, no one heard about it. What else? Twitch themselves, they took over Twitch and all that stuff, and all the other products that they've made, but they were the thought leaders because they invested in themselves. And I think that's where people need to start clocking on, especially streamers and influencers or whoever. If you want to be in a business part of that, you need to reinvest in yourself and look at that with your time. Again, talking about our time management and efficiency with time, is if you're not investing in yourself, you're investing in somebody else. And if you're not at the point to invest in somebody else, why are you doing it? And I think, and it can be so much, and again, we've got the internet now. I can't remember who it was, but people say, there's a state argument saying that we're already at cyborg level just for the fact that we have mobile phones, because we are constantly connected to the internet, constantly. And like, if I can't find my phone now, I have a mini heart attack. I'm like, oh God, where is it? Like, you know what I mean? You have a panic, like you've lost a limb. And we're already at the level of where we can have constant information. So me and my friends, we have a joke. If we ever get into an argument, we're like, right, I'm drawing the Google sword, just because we can solve this argument right there and then and Google it. 10, 15, 20 years ago, you couldn't do that. But yeah, we're still stuck in that mindset because it's only like we only recently started doing this about a couple of years ago. But like we had the thought like, oh wait, we've got phones on us. We can just answer this question now. So we're past the point now where we have to wait for information. Information's coming to us. It's just how can you use that information to better yourself, invest in yourself, to then move forward to like you're at the point yourself where you don't need to further invest in yourself. You're learning from teaching other people.
Yeah, I definitely agree there. I got to a point myself where my lifestyle net worth is so high. Like people are like, oh, you live with your mom. I'm like, okay, but like I can out earn you in a day. And like,
Yeah.
excuse me, I laugh because it's like people who see how I live, they're like, oh, do you look like you're broke and poor? I'm like, yeah, that's because I don't want to get kidnapped on the street. Like when you get to a certain level, you just can't be riding around in a Lamborghini. You know, you can't have a ton of money in, you know, XYZ bank account. Like I keep my money moving, right? Cash flow. So it's like I have to be as efficient as possible with my resources because again, if someone kidnaps me, right? I don't have one phone. I have two phones now. I have an extra smartphone because I have some of those security measures for all my crypto, right? And so it's like I have to think about these things 10 or 15 steps ahead. If I'm like, if I get kidnapped on the street, right? If someone gets my phone, I'm screwed. And so I have to get another phone just to counteract that measure because if my bank is even a minute late calling me on that phone and they get some like weird transaction or something, like, oh man, dude, like it's just the amount of planning it takes to get to this level of lifestyle net worth. It's so difficult. And that's why I realize like I can't date whoever I want because they won't understand how I live. They're like, okay, Adam, why do you just work so much? I'm like, if I don't, right, I lose a lot. It's not just money anymore. It's about time, right? I can't get my time back. And I definitely can't create more time, right? People are like, oh, you can hire someone and gain more time. I'm like, no, I can hire someone and be more efficient with my time. I'm not going to gain that time back somehow and it just adds to my life. No, that time I still have to use that and reinvest it somewhere else, right? The distribution of my time, it's heavily unequal in terms of finances and lifestyle. Right now, it's focused more on finances because if I can do something for what some of these major brands, and of course they're never going to quote me or like put me in their credits, right? Because it's all private. But like, dude, I have experiences people would only dream about, but like I can't talk to them about it because it's like NDAs, but also like people just wouldn't understand because they're not at that lifestyle network. Like they don't wake up and a Fortune 100 company contacts them and then they're now consulting for the Fortune 100 company. The Fortune 100 company pays them some exuberant amount of money over XYZ years. Like I have to negotiate these deals and it takes so long to negotiate them. And people just don't understand how much time it takes for me to not only consume the content from one of these Fortune 100 companies and actually understand it, but also to negotiate with them, right? Because the bureaucracy and other things, it's just like,
Yeah.
Sometimes I can't deal with it, you know? Sometimes I'm just like, I'd rather not work with your company. I don't care how much money you pay me. It's just better to keep my peace of mind and be more efficient with my time because I always know there's another Fortune 100 company coming up and I can do something where, again, speaking with someone like yourself, if I had to ask you a few questions about streaming, right? I'd be like, okay, well, what are you going to do on Twitch if they ban your stream? You know, like people don't ask
Yep.
themselves these questions. Like if you get banned on Twitch and you could never stream again, or if you get banned on YouTube or like Trovo, like if you can never stream on the internet again, right? Because the government controls the internet. Like if you could never stream on any platform ever, even if it's decentralized and people still find you, like the FBI finds you, like what are you gonna do? And people just
Yep.
don't think like that.
Yeah, it's really interesting, especially to think COVID's really shown this is how you need to diversify your revenue streams. It's like I remember I saw this girl on my Facebook. She started streaming, and I said to her, "I was like, oh, so are you on Twitch?" And she goes, "Oh yeah, yes." Oh, so do you use Facebook or YouTube? She's, oh no, I don't do that. I'm like, oh, why not? And she's, oh well, I don't want to betray Twitch. I was like, what are you on about? Don't want to betray Twitch. Twitch do not care about you. Like they're not going to be like, oh, it's all right. This person, she's sweet. She's streaming with us. We'll look after her. Like, no, I don't give a shit. And they'll be like, oh, okay. And then I was like, you need to diversify and like put your loyalty where you feel the loyalty back. And I think that is just the future. I think yeah, it's going really well, and I'm excited for the future for everything. It's big moves coming ahead.
Yeah, it's gonna be good for you, man, because you're gonna be able to work with some brands where hopefully they figure out how to like create some decentralized or DeFi apps, because like I just don't understand people, like the way people view Twitch right now. It's very weird, because when it was called Justin TV and nobody really cared, like nobody cared. But like now you have like hot tub streams and stuff like that, and I'm just like, listen, guys, in 100 years, man, these hot tub streams, that's not going to be it, man. Like this is just a
Yeah,
little, this is like a little trend, or maybe like a little micro blimp of a movement people just want to do for money and attention, like this validation they need, and then they just move on to something which is actually going to make them serious amounts of money. And I was thinking, like, I remember Devin Nash on the Scuffed podcast, he was talking about like, or he didn't reveal it himself, someone else revealed it. It was like, oh, well, Amaranth is earning like 1.8 million per month with like OnlyFans and other things. And I'm like, yeah, because she doesn't only stream on Twitch. She has like different other, he has like 2 or 3 YouTube channels. She has Patreon, she has OnlyFans, and she's doing all these other things. And I'm like, listen, guys, Amaranth has like 2 or 3, maybe even 4 or 5 different companies that she owns. And so like it makes sense that she's pulling 1.8 million per month. And she's top on OnlyFans. Like it makes sense. People think like these people on Twitch, they're not business minded. I'm like, no, it takes a lot of mental capacity, not just IQ, but like you have to really put a lot of energy to think about this, because Twitch, they demonetize Amaranth, right? They turn off her ads and like they don't consult her. They don't actually care about Amaranth.
yep,
What they care about are the advertisers on the platforms, right? People like me who are going to go on the platform and be like, okay, which streamer or which team or which organization can I work with? Bring an agency or a Fortune 100 company to, and we can start advertising. Bring like 100K per month on ads, and like that's all they care about. And it's weird because these streamers have this brand loyalty to a platform or many platforms which don't care about them. And I'm just like, listen, guys, use DeFi, use no code, use decentralized, finance, build your own platform, that you actually own. Like people can still find you if you use different ways to market, and you can still be very profitable, but not lose 50% of your revenue on Twitch subscriptions. It just doesn't make sense to be an affiliate or even a partner sometimes, right? Even if you're getting like a 70 whatever split, like people say it's 70/30, but I'm like, knowing Twitch, like they're gonna screw you over somehow. And
oh yeah,
I just don't like the way they tweak their wording about these partner splits, because when I see some of these partnerships, like I don't view the contracts myself at this point. I just know that when people are talking to me about how their partnership is going, I'm like, it sucks. And I haven't really met one Twitch partner who I would want to trade places with. And like that's really sad to say that.
yeah. Twitch is just a hard one though. I think it's the Wild West gold rush Twitch. That's how I view it. Of like people saw people hitting gold on it, and everyone's run to it now, and it's just trying to hit it as well. If you just have the one axe trying to hit the gold, it's not going to happen. You need to have multiple minds trying to under one company, and that's how you hit it all. But it is really interesting, and I'm excited. I'm really excited to see the future of it all. How content creators become the future. I think they're going to take over modern marketing. You're going to see content creators owning their own businesses, outperforming. For example, we got the Nelk Boys starting their own what's it, hard seltzer, like Happy Dad, I think that's what it's called. And the exponential growth from that, where you see like they were made in a month later they're on the UFC main card, and it's because content creators are smaller as well. I think that's the largest thing, is like, especially like you're talking before about they've got to ask 20 million people a question before they can get it sorted. As we're a content creator is a single person that makes that decision, so they can be agile and move quickly. And that's why Google's struggling, because, well, they're not struggling. They've got 153 in the bank. That's not a bad thing to have. But in the grand scale of things, they are struggling because they have so many hoops they have to jump through. As where I wouldn't be surprised if you'll see like an XQC coming up and he'd be like, oh, by the way, got my own search engine coming out. It's for all you juicers. You want to come and do it? That will happily, you'll just see generation just disappear from Google. And that's going to be where it's going to go that way. And you're going to see some smarter, younger people come into it. And we're just going to be like, how do we not think, like Mr. Beast, perfect example. How have we seen a content creator go to own his own burger chain? And it's going to be the future, and it's going to be really, really interesting seeing people do that and see the businesses left them behind.
Yeah, I'm kind of disturbed because somebody asked me a question the other day. Like, what are you gonna do if like your company or when the brands you're working on fails again? And I'm like, listen, there's just too much opportunity. Like, if you can't see where esports is gonna go in the next year and a half to maybe 2 years with technology, like you just can't. Like, I think, or not even. I think I know somebody predicted. I'm not sure if it was Newsy, but they're like the esports revenue, like the actual amount of money people are gonna make is gonna more than double. And I was trying to calculate that in my mind. I'm like, more than double. Like, how is that possible? Because you have a company like Playversus, which is worth like hundreds of millions of dollars, and what what are they gonna do to double their revenue? You know, like they're already at the top. And so for me, I'm like, are there even enough resources for a company like that to double their revenue? Because I know, like, for someone like yourself working on the company you're working with, like, yeah, you can. For someone who's like XQC streaming, like he can double his revenue. But like these major brands, like if they double their revenue, the esports industry is literally just gonna implode. Like
Yep.
you can't get to that level where there's another FTX TSM because there's not enough resources, right? Like that level of crazy, it's not even just a monopoly, it's like a black hole. Like if you get too close to that level, like when black holes get too close to each other, like that singularity, right? And they fuse together, like
Yep.
that is not a good thing. I mean, a black hole by itself is not a good thing, but like if you get too close to that, oh man. And people, they really do look at the numbers and they get excited. But I'm like, listen, guys, don't try and get in that revenue stream. Like if you try to be like Play Versus and get that valuation, like you're gonna blow up. And I can't stress this enough. Like the best thing to do really is to see how you can monetize just being as authentic as possible. And
Yep.
people think I'm strange because they just like I just tell people about my life. I'm like, yeah, I live with my mom. I'm in Provo. You can come see me at my house. Like, I don't care. Like, I'm gonna be working anyway. Like, I've better things to do than worry about things like being anonymous or privacy right now. Because for me, I know how to protect my assets right now. I know how to protect myself. The problem is for a streamer who has a stalker, right? Like Amaranth, for example, right? If she has a stalker, how does she protect herself? You know, well, she has security. But I'm like, in the future, having a bodyguard is probably something every streamer is gonna need because I don't see how you can stream and someone sees your face, right? They can get your IP address, and then eventually, if you're not using a decentralized platform or you're not like VTubing or something, right? If they even see the reflection in your glasses or your eyes, right? They can figure out where you live just
Yeah.
based on the lighting. And people don't understand this. Like people don't understand how that works to track someone down. But like these are the things I've heard about. And
Have
like,
you heard about the Shia LaBeouf thing that he did, where
oh, I
he
have
would
not.
set up a stream? He left, I can't remember what it was, but like a note or something. And basically, people watching the stream, they spend months or weeks calculating where it is just so they can take down the camera. So I'll have this on. I'll hunt it down and send it over to you. But literally, it was like a couple month long thing where he would put it up, and all you could see would be like a single tiny view out of a window, and the fans literally would correlate where it is, what room they're in, how it be, kick in the door, and then just as they got to turn off the camera, he would then set up another location with a different camera, and it's just them trying to follow him. I don't know if it was like a bit for a new film or something that he was coming out, or just one of his random crazy actions that he had. But is really, I think you're right, and but even then, that's more opportunity in gaming and esports of like how someone's going to be able to figure out a problem for that. Not if it's like if it's not a bodyguard business, it's going to be figuring out, okay, if someone's following me, can I press something to automatically get rid of it or whatever it is. But that's more opportunities as this grows, and that's where I think people need to focus more time on content creation or aiding rather than esports itself. Because I think I read somewhere like esports is like 140 billion, as where compared to the actual gaming market, it's like that's just nothing compared to like 1% of the gaming market.
Yeah, it's something I just have to stress the point over and over. It's like, guys, esports is so small. Gaming is like where you're gonna earn the majority of your money if you want to like really earn a lot of money. And people are just so focused on esports where I just don't understand the purpose of it anymore. Where for me, I'm just passionate. That's it.
Yeah, same. It's what you need in this industry. It's if you've not got passion, you won't get anywhere because people will smell it out of the water straight away.
All right, Ollie, any more questions for me before we end this?
That's good for me, mate. Thank you. I've had a really good time. Thank you.
All right, man. I'll speak to you soon. Take care.
You too, buddy. Have a good one. Thank you. Bye.